is Mark Vanasse. I'm the fifth generation Vanasse, the original generation being Simon Vanasse, and then his son AJ and Ann Vanasse. And I'm here to talk about Countryside Apartments today, which my father and I built in 1977. Countryside Apartments was built on 3 acres of land that my father had purchased from Ellie Parnell back in 1972, I believe. I went to school at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. When I came back in 1975, I found that both my grandmothers were living not as freely and as they could. They were living, in a cabin. One of them in Richmond, the other one in the lower level of my aunt's house. And I just thought at the time, I've seen some senior living in some of the bigger cities, including Madison, and thought that would be a good thing for them to do. In November 1st, 1977, we opened up. I would have never thought that I would be starting something that was so new for the community, that, there would be people that their daughters and sons were helping to live in their places out in the country, but it wasn't an ideal situation for them. Once they moved into my place, we're talking about, potlucks a couple nights a week, playing cards. The place turned into a place that was more community-minded than anything. It's a place where seniors felt at home and they could afford it. We had our first woman, Mary Carr, was the first one that moved in before our housing was done. We had completed everything, but we hadn't moved in any appliances yet, and I hadn't even contacted her about moving in yet. She did know that she was moving in Unit 5, though, and she proceeded to move in a few days before our open house even. And Mary Carr was not the person that you would tell had to leave. So even my contractor says, "What are you going to do about this?" I says, "Mary Carr is going to stay." She had a cooler and a hot plate that she was going to use until her appliances arrived. I'll get back to my uncle Elsie that moved in, and Ernest Harvey. Well, Elsie and Ernest would talk back to him in French Canadian, and he was just shocked. But that's the way it was. I would say more than half of the people up there spoke fluent French Canadian at the time. And I know in my childhood it was spoken on the streets. But, it was always the people that moved in that made the place. We just were figures in the background that let them interact. The next part of my journey here is the fire I had on June 6th, 2022. We had a fire that was spotted at 2 in the morning by one of the residents. 3 different fire departments in Richmond, St. Joe, Somerset were there for the fire. Police department was there. It was an extreme loss. We lost a third of our building, ended up being razed down to the ground and replaced in the end. People from the community were there. First responders, I don't know if I mentioned them, they were there. Christ Lutheran Church opened up their building at 6 in the morning and made breakfast for my residents. Red Cross showed up at 8 o'clock, and they were helping to facilitate some of the moving. Not everyone had a place to go. Some of them had to go to hotels or different places. So through the fire, what's happened here with the firefighters and people surviving the fire, and all the people that worked to make sure everybody survived the fire, made me understand why I live here. And it's the community around us. And that started the year and a half that my place had no residents at all. And the journey. Do I rebuild it? What do I do? I was 70 years old at the time. I thought I had completed my job. And so that was something that kicked around in my mind. But within 2 weeks after the fire, I knew no one else was going to rebuild the building. It was a job I had to take on myself. And it wasn't until February of the next year that I actually was able to get the destroyed part of the building razed down to the ground so we could start over again. And even as we were building during that next year, it was, can I get enough money to rebuild it properly? I will say we were able to partially open our building January 2024, and we do have 12 of our original residents back from the fire era in June 2022. This June we opened up fully. It's a beautiful building now. Even though 2/3 of it was not damaged in the fire, because of the time frame, the year and a half to 2 years before it was completely completed, we were able to remodel everything at our place, and we really feel whole again.